It is impossible to grow good bonsai without understanding top dominance and how you can increase the strength of lower branches compared to the top in your trees. But by doing this, what am I actually doing to the tree? I am telling the tree, your top is gone. Now this is really quite fundamental, and understanding how it works really improves the way you grow bonsai. Hi, this is Jelle, growing bonsai, and today I am looking at how I keep the trees under control in my bonsai pots. One of the things you need to know when you are growing bonsai is that trees are top dominant. I don't think this is news to anybody, but maybe it might be news to you. How do you actually make sure your lower branches are stronger than the top? If there's one big difference between trees and shrubs, it is about their dominance. Shrubs, they are basally dominant. That means they would much rather grow branches from the bottom of the trunk than from the top. That's why they don't grow up tall, but they grow really wide with lots and lots of side branches. So the natural growing form of shrubs is to grow low and wide. Trees, on the other hand, they are top dominant. The top starts growing and continues growing at the expense of the lower branches. Now, if you want to grow a bonsai, that is a problem. In a bonsai, you want something to stay low. On the other hand, an azalea is so basally dominant, it can be difficult to get them quite tall. That's why on an azalea, you typically remove lower growth in the development stage. You let a branch grow out and then you use lots and lots of sacrifice branches to grow the trunk line. For trees, often we just let one leader run, you cut it back, you let it run again because it just wants to grow up. It has no problem with growing up, and always there will be sprouts at the top. Anyway, how do we in a tree control the top dominance and make those lower branches stronger? I'm not going to talk about the azalea anymore because I have a whole video on these azaleas. I'll pop a link down below somewhere. Now I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new by telling you that trees are top dominant and that they grow much better at the top than at the bottom. However, if you are wondering whether that is actually true, let's take a look at this Nishikigawa. This is a cork bark Japanese maple. That's for the blooper reel. And if I look at these lower branches, what do I find here? I have 2 pairs of leaves. 1, 2, 3 pairs of leaves. 1, 2 pairs of leaves. 1 pair of leaves. So all these branches have grown 1, 2 or 3 pairs of leaves. Now if I go up to the top and I look at a branch like this one, let me adjust the camera. Here, this is somewhere halfway up the trunk. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of leaves from this growing season. Here in the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs of leaves. Let's see whether this one does better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pairs of leaves and a massive aphid infection. Don't worry, the top had to go anyway. Now, of course, there are a couple of ways to deal with this. And let me delve into these a little bit for you to show you what I mean. And the first one is regular top pruning. I'm going to take this one away. I'm not going to prune it at all. I'm just going to put a beech in place. I know, this is not a beech. It's a Zelkova. I just forgot that I pruned all my beeches yesterday. So I'll have to do with another tree. Fortunately, this Zelkova is also showing great promise. It is a tree that I grew from seed. It is now about 8 years old, if I remember correctly. And what you can very clearly see happening here is that these low branches, they are not extending as strongly this year as these top branches. Nice about it is that the internodes here are quite short in comparison to the internodes here. But these branches, they are extending and they're thickening up. They are basically ruining the top of the tree. It's not a problem if I still want to fatten up the trunk itself. But I've decided that I'm done with fattening up this one. This is going to be a very gentle, thin tree. But it also means that I now need to stop these from extending. I'm not going to take cuttings. No, don't worry. And this is a very fat one and I can just remove it all the way at the base. I'm leaving a little bit of a stub off the first one as an extension where new branches can form. But by doing this, what am I actually doing to the tree? I am telling the tree, your top is gone. You need to find another way to start growing your tree. At the same time, the roots, they keep on pumping up water and nutrients into the trunk for all these branches to grow on. With these top branches gone, other branches can now start to benefit. The hormones in this branch are no longer signaling we are the tallest branch, we are the dominant branches, we are taking over. And therefore also the lower branches have a chance to catch up. So pruning the upper canopy and taking out the strongest shoots back to 1 or 2 leaves is a perfect way to stop the upper canopy of becoming overly dominant over the lower trunks. Of course, it also means that during the growing season you'll regularly have to go back and prune back this part of the tree. This will now start budding again, and by the time it starts budding I will nip out the growing tips. I will not allow these to grow that long anymore. I did it just for the startup of the season. This was repotted in spring and therefore it could use a little bit of a boost of the roots. But now by keeping these short I will get finer twigging, lots and lots of fine branches rather than the long extending branches. And the long extending branches are the part of the tree that are the strongest. This brings me to another part, how you can ensure that the lower branches are stronger than the top. And the third one is letting extension branches grow out from the bottom of your tree. I don't need all of them. I need to decide, do I want taper in my branch to develop or do I want the whole branch segment to fatten up? Because this branch extension sits at the end of the branch, right? This is clear. As this extends, this fattens up and therefore this whole branch fattens up equally. However, if I now take this one, which sits a little bit further back, everything between the attachment of this sacrifice branch here and well basically the roots fattens up. But towards the end of the branch there is no fattening up. It is only the sap flow between the branch and the roots that fattens up. Don't know if that makes sense. So by removing the extension at the end, leaving just a small weak bud, removing this one from the end, removing this one here in the top and just allowing this one to grow means that I get taper. This gets fatter, this part doesn't get fatter, but this strengthens the whole branch. Now I don't want this one to get stronger, so I'm also removing this growing tip here, removing this growing tip here. And well, while we're at it, I'll remove these as well. This being the lowest branch, it means that this one should be the strongest. I mentioned that these are not growing all that strong, but compared to the rest of the tree, except for this branch, this is now actually really strong. There are active growing tips signaling the roots grow. There's extension growth. This will help fattening it up. But this branch is thinner than that branch. So what I want to do, I'm going to let this one run a little bit, but not from the end. No, I'm just going to let this one run. I'm going to clip this one off as well. This can grow, but this one, no sir. Now this is really quite fundamental, and understanding how it works really improves the way you grow bonsai. Now if you look here at this tree trunk, right, this is something I'm developing from seed. It's now 4 or 5 years old, and this is actually the main tree that I am developing. This here is just a sacrifice branch. I'm growing this out. I'm letting it extend. It is now, for this season, it's grown about 1 foot. Last year it was about 6 feet. And I just keep on pruning it back every year to a different space. And at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm allowing these lower branches to grow. These are weak because all the growth is on top. As a result, I get very tight internodes. Now what you need to know is if you have a tight internode, that you can get a branch at this node, at that node and at that node, and therefore you will not have a need to graft branches on. So when developing a trunk line, it's really nice to have your trunk line grow really slow. Having a sacrifice does therefore 2 things on this tree. This tree, it fattens up the trunk, but it also allows me to very slowly grow a trunk line for the future. Once I feel this has fattened up enough, I'm just going to cut it off here. Then this is wired up a little bit more, and I might grab another branch coming from this point and I'll allow that to extend as well. I will get increased taper. This will continue to develop at a slow pace. This also gets fattened up and is not so thin anymore. And at some point I'm done with these tall skeins that are growing on my tree. And at that point I'm going to allow these side branches, which are now quite weak. I'm going to wire them in place and allow the extension to shoot up and do the same thing. And that way develop the branches with taper, movement and side branches that have very short internodes. This, I think, is crucial in making a good bonsai. The second is thinning off foliage, keeping in mind your strong zones and the weak zones of the tree. And in the end, the beech does come out. And this is a beech I've been developing for a few years. I think it's 3 or 4 years from a bare stump. There is a nice development video on this beech in my channel. I will pop a link down below in the video if I think of it. If I don't, drop me a comment and I will provide the link after all. Now, what you can see here, if you look at this part of the tree, I hope that you notice there is way less leaves. The leaves are all cut much smaller than if you look here at this part. And there is a very good reason. This is also to do with top dominance. These branches of the tree will grow a lot faster. They sit on top of the tree, they get all the sun, they get all the nutrients, they get everything they need and therefore they grow. This branch has been pulled down. It actually originates here in the top, then comes cascading down, 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 down and fills this space here. So all of this is just the same branch coming here from the top. For the tree, this is an uninteresting branch. It will not push resources, it will not push development, and it will typically stay quite thin in contrast to these upper ones. So what do? I've thinned this out and I've left a lot of the foliage here. That means that in balance, this branch is producing a lot more sugars for the tree than the rest of the branches. That should encourage the tree to spend more resources on this branch, but also it will help fatten up this branch more rapidly than here on top. Now here at the bottom is another little side branch that came out really here at the base. I think it creates a unique addition to this tree, which is quite an odd character. And here the same thing. I've left even more foliage. I've only pruned a few extension tips. Some snails have helped me and created a few holes in the leaves, but that's all I'm doing to this lower branch. That way also this lower branch is encouraged to be stronger. It encourages the tree to invest more here. Hopefully the branch here also will grow stronger. And that is important because here on top the branches should effectively be thinner than the branches down below. And as the tree grows and grows and grows, there's always finer branches coming up. But in bonsai what we do, we stop the tree from growing up. So you have a certain silhouette, you're keeping this. If we now allow these to get a lot thicker, a lot faster than the lower branches, it eventually will look really, really odd that you have very thin, weak branches down low. That's why leave more foliage down below when you're thinning than when you're thinning the upper part. Here, in fact, I actually will remove the tips out of these extensions to further reduce the strength of the top growth. This is something that I'll do throughout the summer. I'll go through the tree and I'll look for little bits and pops and take them out. Here is another one of those culprits. And actually I missed this branch. This seems to be out of place and this leaf is also out of place. Right. Still, nice tree. I hope this helped you. I hope some of these elements were new. If not, let me know that I'm just telling you something you already know. If you know any other reasons, if you know of any other methods on how to strengthen the lower branches compared to the upper branches, I'd be very, very keen. I could imagine there's people who use foliar fertilizer for it. I've not seen it myself, but it could be a good reason. Yeah, let me know. Drop me a line in the comments. And as I've mentioned before, I have been challenged to get this channel to 100,000 subscribers. It would really help me if you would hit the subscribe button if you have not done so. This was Jelle, growing bonsai. See you next time.